Welcome everyone to today's practical ISO 27001 session. So this is something we'll be doing from time to time so that we can pick different aspects of the ISMS. So we can pick different aspects of the ISMS and break it down. As far as in some cases, like today, we're looking at an aspect of implementation. We could also pick maybe a topic and just delve deeper into it. So we'll just go into it. We're not going to spend so much time, 30, 40 minutes tops, or even less, just to dive into it. So we have the case study today. It's on risk assessment. So we're going to do the ISO 27001 case study on risk assessment. Please confirm that you can see my screen. Okay, thank you, Augustine. Can one or two other people confirm they can see my screen?
I can see your
Okay,
screen.
thank you very much.
Yes.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Okay, so today's scenario is we're looking at XYZ Corporation. So it says XYZ Corporation, a mid-sized technology firm, provides cloud storage and software development services. The company recently underwent a preliminary ISO 27001 audit that revealed weaknesses in its risk management practices. To address this, the company decided to perform a risk assessment as part of its information security management systems implementation. So here we have some key details about XYZ Corporation. So number one, it says the critical assets that XYZ Corporation possesses are customer data and then proprietary source code that is for program development and all of that, and then employee information. Now, the key threats: unauthorized access to customer data, malware targeting software development environments, and then phishing attacks aimed at employees. Then we also have number three, what the existing controls right now: password policies for account management, basic antivirus software on all systems, and then periodic training on cybersecurity awareness. Now, what are the goals? Our goals are, first of all, to identify risks, assess their likelihood and impact, and then implement necessary controls to mitigate them effectively. So what are our tasks? The tasks for risk assessment is: one, identify threats, vulnerabilities, and potential impacts. Then we're also to assess the likelihood and impact of identified risks. And then also we're to prioritize risks based on their severity. And then we're to propose mitigation controls. So now, what are our questions here? What are we tasked to do? Number one, what approach should XYZ Corporation use for its risk assessment? Then number two, how should XYZ Corporation prioritize identified risks? And then number three, what additional controls could XYZ Corporation implement to mitigate risks? Then number four, how can XYZ Corporation ensure that the risk assessment process is effective? Do we go over it again so that we have a solid foundation of what we're about to delve into? Please, if you vote for us to go over it again, just indicate maybe by thumbs up, or you can just unmute your mic and indicate. Okay, so we'll take it. Okay, So we'll take it again. So we'll start from the top. So our case study today is around risk assessment, and we're using the XYZ Corporation as for the case study, and we'll go over it again. XYZ Corporation, a mid-sized technology firm, provides cloud storage and software development services. The company recently underwent a preliminary ISO 27001 audit that revealed weaknesses in its risk management practices. To address this, the company decided to perform a risk assessment as part of its information security management um, system implementation. And then we have some key details on XYZ Corporation here. So number one, what are the critical assets that are housed by XYZ Corporation? Critical assets are customer data, proprietary source code. So that means their own software source codes, and then employee information. And then what are the key threats? We have unauthorized access to customer data. We have malware targeting software development environments. And then we have phishing attacks aimed at employees. Then also, what are the existing controls in place at the moment? Password policies for account management, basic antivirus software on all systems, and then periodic training on cybersecurity awareness. What are the goals? The goals are to, one, identify risks, two, assess their likelihood and impact, three, implement necessary controls so that they can mitigate those risks effectively. So what are the tasks? Number one, our tasks are to, number one, identify threats, vulnerabilities, and potential impacts, and then also to assess the likelihood and impact of the identified risks, and then three, to prioritize risks based on their severity, and four is to propose mitigation controls. So what are the questions put before us? Number one, what approach should XYZ Corporation use for its risk assessment? Number two, how should XYZ Corporation prioritize identified risks? Number three, what additional controls could XYZ Corporation implement to mitigate risks? And number four, how can XYZ Corporation ensure that the risk assessment process is effective? So it will be quite interactive, but I'd like to go over number one first, and then we take it up from there. So for number one, it says, what approach? It says, what approach should XYZ Corporation use for its risk assessment? Now, first of all, they have to identify the assets, the threats, the vulnerabilities. The task has answered this thing for us. Then two, estimate the likelihood of threat exploitation. Then also to calculate the impact of potential security incidents, and then document findings in a risk assessment report. So if I was going to ask number two, how should XYZ Corporation prioritize identified risks? Anybody wants to give their own inputs? Anybody?
Can you repeat the question?
How should XYZ Corporation prioritize identified risks? So after you've gotten the potential risks, how do you prioritize those risks?
Okay, I can say by how would I put it? Classifying the applications or their infrastructure. Like now, some infrastructure might be critical, why some might not be as critical as. Let me just cite an example. Even if it's like a bank, a core banking
Okay.
application is more critical than an in-house application.
Okay. But the question here is prioritizing the risk and not prioritizing the application, or it's the risk. Peter, you want to say something?
Yes. I want to like, is it maybe by analyzing the risk? Is that what you're trying to talk about?
No, I mean, I want your opinion. So
Okay.
after the risk identified, we've been told that we would identify and we would prioritize. Yes,
Estimate.
please.
Okay.
Yes. Augustine, you have something to say.
Yeah, so talking about prioritizing the risk. First, the initial task you did was to carry out an asset inventory.
Yeah.
From carrying the asset inventory, you did the which of those assets are critical. You identify the critical assets, and then you now identify the threats and the risk. So, from the critical asset identified, which of those risks are attributable to those assets that are in order of priority? So, in order to prioritize your risk, is those ones that are attributable to the critical asset you have identified that you would consider as your most priority or as your most prioritized risk.
Okay, thank you. But you also know that I could have a critical risk. Yes, Olalekan, but okay,
All
Olalekan, before
right.
I go on, please say
Okay.
something.
I think what we have to do to prioritize is to do the risk assessment, where we look at how frequent the risk would occur and the impact of the risks. So whereby to give us either high, low, medium, or low. Then the one with the high will be prioritized. The asset with higher risks will be prioritized than the asset with the lower risks.
Thank you. So Sunday, Ido, you want to say something?
Okay, yeah. I think in alignment to what the last person said, and from what we have done in the first one, using the risk access matrix, to know the severity. Since we already have idea of the likelihood, the impact, that will help us to know the severity, and aligning each of the risk with based on the severity with the business objectives is also important. Yeah, because alignment with objectives is also key. That's
Okay.
my contribution. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Also, we need to put in mind that yes, of course, you identify critical assets, but sometimes you may identify risk on the critical assets, but the risk identified is not of big consequence. Now, you could have a less critical asset and you identify a risk that, even though it's on a less critical asset, it could give room for deeper exploitation. So everything everybody has said is correct. So, like the last speakers said, and this is it. I mean, this is not like cast on stone. This is just some things that so whatever you put should be justifiable. So risk should be prioritized based on risk matrix. Now, exactly what the last few speakers said. And those risk matrix would consider now the likelihood. What is likelihood? Is the probability of occurrence. What's the probability that this would occur? Will it occur frequently, or will it occur? Would it be like? Would it hardly or seldom occur? So that needs to be established. Then the impact. How severe is the impact? Now, let's not forget something here. In this case, we are using low, high, medium as probability or even on the impact. In some cases, it could be numeric. You can say 1 to 5, where 1 is low, 3 is medium, 4 is high, 5 is critical. You just define your indices. But for easy comprehension, we've used the high, low, medium. Then the impact. So the impact is to know the severity of the consequences, meaning that if this thing happens, what would be, or how severe would the consequence of this event, happening? So here we've seen things like phishing attacks that could lead to data breaches. I don't know, does anybody want to lend a voice to this also, to prioritizing risks? We're here to learn from each other. Okay, then. So we'll go to the third question. So, what additional controls could XYZ Corporation implement to mitigate these identified risks? Can we give what do you call it? Can we give our opinions? What additional controls do you think that this company can put in to mitigate the risks that have been identified? Any contribution?
Sorry. So the thing is, we had to keep going back and forth on the document.
Yes.
First,
Yes.
what was those controls that had even been identified? Let's even look at that before we
Okay,
can
let's
think
let's go back there. I was waiting for someone to ask that. So you can see here, the existing controls are password policies for account management, basic antivirus software on all systems, periodic training on cybersecurity awareness. These are the three controls that have been put in place. So what additional controls can we put to these three controls that have been put in place? Anyone?
Multi-factor authentication control.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, correct. Yes. So can you shed more light on MFA or multi-factor authentication?
Okay. As we know that password, using a password on website or web application is not 100% safe. If there is MFA, it will give a stronger control to the password. So when somebody logging with their password, they can get a code on their phone or in their email to confirm their originality as regards the user is the one signing in into the application. This can bring a stronger control.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And any other one? This is a very key. The MFA is a very key one. Yes. Peter, you want to say something?
Yes. How about the firewall and well-designed policy for firewall?
Okay. So give an instance of a good policy, a good firewall policy.
Okay. If there is a good firewall policy in place, that will be able to protect the system from unusual or unwanted how will I put it, like access to the network and all that. So that's my own little contribution. I don't know if it's correct though.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yes. You want to say something again?
Yes. I just want to
Yes.
buttress what he said. When
Yes,
they
please.
use basic firewall, it shows the company is using a free antivirus firewall. For using a free or basic anti-firewall in your environment, you are vulnerable to be breached. They should use something
Yes.
like advanced or subscribe firewall, like Fortinet, FortiGate, or this
Thank you.
advanced firewall, this Prisma to
Yeah.
to capture or to for their environment. Yeah, to
Thank you
capture
very much.
events.
Thank you very much. Benjamin says secure connection with SSL. Of course, if of course, we need to have secure connections. People are, for instance, working remotely and all of that. A proper VPN has to be in place and all of that. So I agree. Then Sunday, you want to say something? Sunday, your hand is up.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. What I'm also looking at is because of the nature of the job they do and the kind of role that maybe developers and other people might be having, there's need for them to implement privileged access management, limiting having direct access into possibly the target system. What that does is that you don't just go through directly to the application. You have to go through your PAM tools, and your whatever you are doing can be monitored. And access will not just be a straight through access you are having. Before you can even connect, a whole lot of things have to take place before you are granting access. And when you are in, whatever activity you are performing can also be recorded. And if that tool also have what we call a behavioral analytics capabilities, if you are going beyond the pattern you have been used to, it will cut you off from that session completely. Thank you.
Thank you.
And also, I'm also
Thank
looking at regular vulnerability scanning too. That might also help to reduce the risk of exploitation of known. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'll put what I have here, and that is why I didn't put a lot of options, because the idea of these sessions is so that we can interact, learn from each other. Like now, where the last speaker spoke about the PAM, which is a good one. So here we spoke about for authorized access, we implement multi-factor authentication and role-based access control. So role-based access control, it means that you have access based on your roles. So you shouldn't have access to resources that do not impact on your job, that do not impact on your role. So role-based access controls are things that, and the MFA is a good control, like had already been pointed out by one of our speakers here. Then we have use of advanced endpoints and detection and response tools and network segregation. So have proper EDR tools. And then the idea of segregating network is, if there is a threat on one segment of the network, it can be easily isolated. It could be isolated, as opposed to having access to the entire network, and then it can impact on the entire. So it can be isolated and dealt with. And you know that when we identify breaches, for instance, we first of all need to isolate the sources or the source of those those breaches. Then also regular simulated phishing campaigns and enforced email filtering solutions. Yes. And then every other solution that we've spoken about here. I like the submission so far. It's been fantastic. Then number 4, how can XYZ Corporation ensure that the risk assessment process is effective? Anyone, how can they ensure that it's effective? And at the end of the day, I'll tie this to one of the clauses in the ISO 27001. So how do they ensure? Yes, please, Olusegun Olalekan.
All right. Now they can ensure it's effective by monitoring and review, probably through management review or internal audit, regular internal audit of the risk assessment, then reporting to management for further action.
Thank you. So I would ask another question. What you said is correct. If you're meant to tie this your submission to a clause in ISO 27001, what clause will it be? Yes, please.
Okay, that should be clause 10, monitoring, where we talk about management review and internal audit. It should be clause 10. Yeah, I can't remember clause 10. Yeah.
Yes, you're correct. Who can tell me? Okay, Olalekan, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just spoke.
Okay, you just spoke. Okay, so who can tell me what clause 10 is? What is the title of clause 10 in the ISO 27001? He's correct, but we need to know what exactly it's called. We have 20 of us on this call. I believe that at least more than half of us should know what clause 10 is. Hello, anyone?
Is it a system acquisition, development, and maintenance?
No. Clause 10 of ISO 27001. That is CISA you're talking about. This is ISO 27001. Clause 10 is improvements.
Like when you mentioned clause 10, I was looking at that. Is it could it be the segmentation of the various sections to the 14th? Because from the one I have, I think there are about 14 sections of it. Yeah.
No,
that is
no, that's
what I said.
no. You're looking at the ISO 27001 2013 version, and what you're looking at is the controls, not the clauses. Now, you don't have 14 you don't have 14 themes or 14 sections anymore. What you have is 4. You have 4 now and 90 controls, as opposed to 114 controls in the 2013. So there are 10 clauses. Clause 10 is continual improvement, and that is why you have things like audit, evaluation, and the likes. So what he has just spoken about falls into clause 10. So yes. Okay, so we'll just look at my submission here. Again, just like what he said, we will conduct risk assessments regularly and whenever significant changes occur. So there must be that regular assessment, evaluation, and then involvement of all stakeholders to include, say, like IT, HR, legal in the risk assessment process, and then the continuous monitoring and review of the. So this is in this phase, you even identify what you call IOFs, sorry, OFI, sorry, which is opportunities for improvement. Yes, Augustine, you want to say something?
Yes, please. Before I just want to drag you back a bit before you continue. This the new one. I think you said 2019, right?
Or no, 2022.
Okay, 2022. I don't know. Is there a way you could? I don't know if you have a copy to share, Joe. Maybe after this call or any means you can drop it.
I will do that. Okay, I'll do that. So
thank you very much.
Something like a summary as regards the ISO 27, like maybe the controls, the clauses.
Yes, I can even send the standard. So I would yes, I would put a link that I'll put a link to the where you can from my drive download the standard so that you can see the new. Yes.
Nice. Thank you.
Yes, that's fine. That's fine. So we have a documentation speaking to the standard. Let me put it that way. So there'll be a documentation speaking to the standard. So I would put that just before we're done. I'll put that in the chat box. Okay, so let's continue. So continuously monitor and review effectiveness of implemented controls, and then also use tools like vulnerability scanners, like someone had said, and security information event management systems to validate findings. So we've done this. Now, we've done it, that's what theoretically. However, we need to do a report, don't we? We're going to do a risk assessment report, and there's a way it should look. I just give, I did like a small something here. Please let me know if you can see. Can you see? Hello, can you see my screen?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so basically, this is what your risk register would look like. So now, what is the risk ID? The first one identified. What's the assets? The asset is customer data. Now, we saw that they hold customer data, they hold source codes and employee information. Now, what's the threat or the possible threat? Unauthorized access. Now, what is the vulnerability that has been discovered here? Weak passwords policies. So what is the likelihood that this threat could be exploited? It is high. And if it's exploited, what is the possible impact? High. And then if there's that impact, what's the possible risk level? It's critical. So what are the proposed controls? Implement MFA, strengthen password policies, enable account lockout after failed attempts. Who is the owner of this? IT security. Now, status open. So if this is done, you now put closed as the status. Then we now have software development environment. What's the threats? Malware targeting systems. Then the vulnerability is basic antivirus software. It's not doing much. Now, the likelihood of exploitation is medium. And then if it happens, what is the impact? High. And what's the risk level? High. So what's the proposed control? To deploy advanced endpoint detection and response tools, and then regular patch management. I've seen a lot of times, I've worked myself as a systems administrator. I've worked as a network security officer too. And in my earlier days, I was guilty of sometimes turning off patches because you think that, I beg, this thing, the wahala is too much. You are disturbing somebody. But no, there's a reason why patches are being pushed out. Because when vulnerabilities are being identified by the OEM, they send out patches to mitigate those possible risks. Then also, network segmentation is very key. Like we had earlier said, that when you segment your network, it helps you to easily isolate threats when they occur. So we have IT operations, and so your asset register doesn't have to be one astronomic document. It can just be something that it can just be something that you can make as simple as possible. But the problem is a lot of times people try to complicate things. I'm an advocate for simplicity. In reporting, anybody should be able to take your report and be able to read the report and also be able to translate that report. So any questions?
The last column is status, right?
Yes, whether it's open or it is closed. Yes, please. Your hand is up. Yes, please.
Yeah, yes. So I'm looking at it. This it's called risk register. But again, this is more or less, I don't know, it could be given any name, but I don't. Could it be more like an audit log, and where exceptions are logged, and then you monitor for closure, whether if it is still opened or closed, because this is no longer looking like an outcome of an audit.
No,
So
this is the risk assessment. Now, on our next session, we are going to do the internal audit, and we would see an internal audit report.
Okay, yeah, I know.
Closely related.
Yeah, having an internal audit report is there. Then having to log it into your audit log pending, because for monitoring, right? Because the report is there, then your log is there. You could have
yes, of course.
Audit report. You could have audit report of Q1, Q2, Q3, and all of that, but your log is there to where you log all your exceptions, either closed or opened. So looking at this, I'm struggling to differentiate this from an audit log and as well the risk register, because it's almost looking alike.
So that is why you should attend the next session, and that is the essence of these sessions. To what are your appetites for the next session? Now we've struck something for the next session. In our next session, we would be looking at the difference between a risk register and an audit log. That will be for our next session. So I implore that you attend the next session. So this is the idea of these sessions, is to bring things like this out. Now, we've done this. You've brought up an important factor, and we've already had our topic for the next session. And I'm very sure that we will. Yes, please, Peter.
Yeah, thank you. Please, I want to confirm whose responsibility is to carry out the risk assessment. Is it the implementer or the auditor?
No, the implementer, because the auditor, what the auditor does is you're there to audit, you know. An auditor does not how do I put it? An auditor does not an auditor can only, after auditing, make recommendations, but an auditor will not carry the bricks for you. It's not the auditor's job. So when you want to start an implementation, one of the first things you do is a risk assessment. You need to know as is what is obtainable. You need to know what is obtainable, and then you need to know where the loopholes are. That would even inform our steps to take while implementing. It would inform the controls, you put in place and all of that. I don't know if I'm clear.
Yes, but I want to have a bit objection to that, in the sense that, correct me if I'm wrong, though. I actually understand what you said, and I agree with you that yes, the implementer meant to carry out the risk assessment. But at the same time, I believe that auditors should also have a level of risk understanding, because it needs to also wear the cap of form of risk assessment while carrying out the audit exercise, so that will be able to inform the audit decisions, and also put the necessary recommendations in place and all that. So I don't know if I'm correct.
Okay, so I didn't say the auditor should not have the requisite knowledge. Can you be a driver without knowing how to drive a car? Of course not. You get. So, of course, the auditor should have the requisite knowledge, but the auditor is not going to do the risk assessment. Now, when the auditor is auditing, he looks at things like your risk assessment report, your audit report, and all of that. Now, if it doesn't make sense, there's no how he would if it doesn't make sense, there's no how he would give a pass or write a report and say everything is okay. That is why he's auditing. He's auditing to say that these things that have been put in place, they are adequate or they are not adequate. That's why you have, by the standard, things like non-conformity reports and all of that. You get, because there are things that you should conform to, and if they are not conformed to, the auditor will say it is not conformed because of these reasons. So if he doesn't have the requisite knowledge, there's no how he will then give reasons why it's not in conformance. I don't know if that makes sense. Thank you. So please, on the chat box, yes, Sunday, but before you go, on the chat box, I've put a link to a Google form. Can we fill it with the attendees and with our emails, and the requisite materials will be emailed to you? Please kindly fill that form, and also emails will be sent to you regarding our next session too. But our next session would be in February, and that would be communicated properly. Thank you. Yes, Sunday, you want to say something?
Yeah, and just say thank you for this session. Two things I just quickly identify with the risk register. Yeah, some we, instead of having a risk level, it might be risk score. Just maybe for people that might be checking other materials and they're seeing something a bit different. So it might be a risk score where you are doing with quantitative, putting a figure to it instead of qualitative risk.
Yes.
Yeah, so that is, let's take note of that. The another thing I'm also thinking that for people that are also joining and they are not really experienced in this line, I think they might be wondering that how did you go about your risk level? So I think a matrix to that might also help to show them that when you say high, it means critical. When you see medium high, it means this. So that should be a matrix, you know.
Okay, thank you. So typically on a document, you'd see it defined, right? You put the indices of, I'm coming. You put the indices of what you mean by critical, high, medium, low. You can say at the level of low, maybe it's of little or no impact. At medium, it's of low impact. At high impact. And critical, it's a severe, what do you call it? It's a severe level of impact. Meaning that when it's severe, that means that it is at the top of the line. So you're asking about qualitative and quantitative, right?
Yes. I actually want to really understand more on that. And how do you determine if you are meant to use qualitative or quantitative? So just a better understanding on that aspect.
The truth is, it's your choice. Basically, quantitative is number-based, countable or measurable. Then qualitative is interpretation-based or descriptive or relating to. So when we say descriptive, we're saying low, high, severe, critical. When we say is numeric, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't want to be the only one to give an insight on this. So can someone also give his own perspective on quantitative versus qualitative?
Sorry, before maybe as we continue in this, I want to actually add a little things to what I said. So in the aspect of the metrics, so how do you determine that? So anybody that wants to speak might be able to talk to that too. So put the metrics together and, you know, so I understand, at least I have an idea of, I think qualitative, but in the aspect of quantitative, I mean, I have an idea about quantitative, but the aspect of qualitative, that's I just want to have full ideas of that and when to use it.
So when you choose the matrix to use, some people's preference are qualitative, some people's preference are quantitative. It's not cast on stone. If in my report I want to use the qualitative method, it is my choice, as long as I'm able to define or to translate what I'm trying to translate. So there isn't a time when, except an organization, that is a preference. But there isn't a time to say you must use qualitative here or you must use quantitative there. No, it's your choice, it's your preference. I don't know if that answers your question as to the use of it. Then also, please, for those of us that are not, we have an ISMS community. I'm going to paste the join link right now to that ISMS community. So we also take conversations there. And the idea is for us to build the community, the ISMS community, and have a network, meaning that I could be stuck on my job and the next person, Peter or Ifolashade or, any one of us could be there, and I can ask questions there and we can give each other solutions. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing all of us and us inviting more people in the next session. Have an amazing Saturday and have a productive day. Thank you all. See you next time.